Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to the Operation Heal 100 Hearts channel where we do what? Focus on healing, humor, and hot mother freaking topics. If you are tuned into this segment of my channel, you are tuned into the healing segment, which is where we present our Dear Deidre letters. Before I get started, please, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit the thumbs up on my video. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up on my video because we about to read this letter. I'm about to give some feedback. Y'all about to drop in the comment section, and we going to make this shit happen. Hey, my new and old subbies. Anywho, let's rock. Dear Deidre, so I am the eldest of 6 kids. My crackhead ass mother sold me at 6 years old to the highest bidder and biggest purrer for an unlimited supply of crack. Well, he lied and I almost died, but that's neither here nor there. Here we are 26 years later, and I actually turned out phenomenal. I was adopted by a great Hispanic family who had a ton of money, so I've been to the best schools, traveled all over the world, and was loved more than I could have ever imagined. Luckily for Carol the crackhead, she eventually got clean after one of my brothers was murdered, and she now takes excellent care of my 4 younger siblings, from what I hear. A few years ago, Cece, Carol the crackhead, reached out to try to build a relationship, and because I wasn't ready to immediately embrace her, she got upset and we had it out. A year later, she tried again to build a bond and basically invited me over for an ambush by my other siblings because I would not forgive their crackhead ass mother. That was the fuck it. I decided I wasn't giving that ex pipe puller and her offspring any more opportunities to play in my face. A few weeks ago, as I was exiting my lavish corporate office where I earned my hundreds of thousands of dollars thanks to the education provided to me by my adopted parents, and I see one of my sisters. Here we go. She proceeds to have a breakdown in front of my Benz because they want me to consider giving crackhead Carol a piece of my very healthy and vibrant liver, or else she's going to drop dead, and for whatever reason, none of her other children can do it. Baby, I slid my Louis shades on and swerved right around my so-called sister, reminding her to make sure she forgets to put me on the invite list for the funeral. That following weekend, I went by my adopted mom's house to help her do something in her garden, and apparently that drug-induced family had gotten to her too because she was giving me some story about forgiveness and blah, 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 blah. She asked me to promise her that I would at least think about it before making a final decision. I'm looking at my mother like, girl, I already decided. But I owe my parents everything, so I agreed to think about it. Deidre, it's been 5 days, and I thought about and the only thing I thought about is how many languages I could learn to say no in. Am I wrong? Let me know what you think. Signed, I ain't got a liver that I could give her. Okay. Take a swig of my water. Okay. Okay, well, first off, some blessings came out of a very unfortunate situation, which was, like you said, my mom didn't do the best that she could, but God blessed me with a family that took over for her, and in her absence, they actually filled in the gaps and made sure you did what? Turned out absolutely phenomenal. So for that, congratulations, sweetheart. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. From what I hear, you're doing very well for yourself. Like you said, I have a good job. I went to the best schools. I've traveled the world. I have a loving family. So I'm so happy to hear that what started out so rough actually ended up working out so well. So congratulations. Congratulations. Let's start there. I hear you. I hear you. I absolutely hear you. Number one, the number one reason why I hear you is because my parents were also addicts. So I definitely can understand some of your frustration, and I'm very much empathetic towards some of your frustration in regards to your birth mom, right? That's a very tumultuous situation, and also from what you shared in the beginning of the letter, which was she basically sold you to somebody for drugs at a young age. So I could understand you probably have a very heightened level of anger towards your birth mom, right? Let's start from the top. Let's start from the top. At the end of the day, we don't get to pick and choose our family, right? We are born into what we get, right? Which is your mother, your father, your siblings, and so on and so forth. Fortunately and unfortunately for you. The reason why I say unfortunately, because the circumstances were very rough in the beginning, but then the other part of me, which always sees the bright side of things, is that fortunately, because of that rough patch, something was able to come from it, which was a very beautiful and different upbringing for you, right? And instead of it being that, you had to go throughout the whole addiction with your mom until she got clean and so on and so forth, because I don't know how many years after the situation with you she took to get clean. Instead of you having to travel through that with her, you were given to a family that was prepared for you and ready to love you and give you the best. So holding on and harboring anger towards your mom at this point, I don't know if it's going to benefit you, my dear. Now, let me start off saying that I don't want to tell you having anger and being upset with your birth mom is a right or a wrong thing. I don't have the right to say that, right? It's not my situation. I don't know how I would feel, so I don't have the right to say that. The reason why I said it doesn't benefit you is because being angry and being upset with anybody in this lifetime doesn't benefit you. It manifests in your behaviors. It shapes and changes and molds who you are when all the time you're walking around angry and upset. Right? So I think having that anger towards your birth mom is definitely warranted. My question would be in the Healing Heart session is, how long do you want to hold on to that? And if the answer is forever, I would have to ask you after that, how does it benefit you to be angry with this woman? And I know sometimes people think when you hear people say, oh, you don't need to be upset and you don't need to get mad, that makes people feel like you're also saying to them, oh, you have to associate with that person. You have to be friendly with that person. You have to hang out with that person. No, you don't necessarily have to do any of those things. But when people are suggesting to you that you forgive a person and let go of some of the anger that you have for them, that's really more so for you and not for the other person. Because I promise you, and I can guarantee it, that your anger towards your mom to some extent shows up in your behavior somewhere. It may show up at work with an older female colleague. It may show up on a train when you run into a person who is on drugs. It may show up in a romantic relationship where you're dating a guy who has an older mother figure. Some of that anger towards your mom, it would definitely show up in your behaviors. And you've been blessed. You have been blessed in abundance from what you explained here in the letter. So because you have your blessings and God did afford you opportunities outside of what took place with your birth mom, once again, my question would be, what does it benefit you to continue to be angry towards her? Now, there are a couple of steps that I've known folks to take when they're trying to relinquish some of their anger and resentment that they have towards a person. And I will use myself, right? I remember growing up, I had anger towards my dad. Now, granted, I don't want to call this anger warranted because now when I look back on it, it doesn't seem like it was. But for me at that time, that's just how I felt, right? Like it made sense and I had a right to be angry with my dad, right? And I was angry with him up until he passed away. So we actually never got the opportunity to sit down and have the conversation of, I finally forgiven him, I'm no longer angry anymore, and let's move forward like father and daughter. I just have to hope and pray that he knows that in the spirit, right? But some of the ways that I worked towards that forgiveness was I really took a step back, which I would be asking you to do in your Healing Heart session, and looked at what was taking place in the situation. Most times when people are addicted to drugs, they're sick. I know that sounds very hard to hear because I know a lot of times people feel like it is a choice for you to continue to use drugs. I've heard it time and time and time and time again. What I will offer to you is what I know to be true. Most times when people cannot shake that addiction, and oftentimes even when they are addicted, they're sick. They are sick. And that mental illness is no different from a physical illness, right? So if you come in today or tomorrow and you tell somebody, hey, I have cancer, they can't tell you, well, listen, you need to get better because it doesn't benefit us right now for you to have cancer. I wish I could. I can't. I can't. And if I can, there is a lot of steps that need to be taken to address the illness, and then a lot of steps that need to be taken to help get it cured, right? So for your mom, do you think honestly in your heart of hearts it was ideal for her to just say, hey, let me be on drugs, let me freaking sell my kid, let me do all of these things to now harbor and injure and hurt not only myself but the people around me I love? No, she did it because she was sick. She did it because she was sick, right? So once you take a step back and you kind of lean into, first of all, my mother was sick, right? Granted, you didn't ask to be here. She had a choice if she wanted to have a baby. I get all of that, but she still gave birth. You came into fruition at a time when she was not her best. It happens. It happens, right? So if you're taking a step back to look at, you like, okay, first of all, at that time, you were sick. Okay, I get it. There are some things that was done because you were sick, right? Now, when it comes to any type of sexual crimes, right? I don't touch that. I don't touch that. I always refer folks to seek professional help because that's not my area of expertise. So whatever took place when your mom was sick regarding that, the only thing that I could do is just drop down in the comment section and in the description box and give you some resources for the things that I know is available for folks who have been traumatized in this way. But I don't really touch that because that's not my area of expertise, right? So if we want a healing heart session for that, you will be outsourcing, right? But we will also talk about, did you get what you need to heal from that? Because that's an isolated situation from what took place with your mom. Your mom put you in that predicament, but we need to work on what happened in that predicament, right? So then we will be going through the steps of getting you the healing you need for that situation. After that, you the next steps for you, me and you in the healing heart session, then we'll be like, well, let's sit down and let's go over the pros and the cons of the life you have now, starting from the moment that you were born and what you can remember, right? So when we go down the pros and the cons list, what I saw you do in this letter, which I loved, was you had a lot of pros. You had a lot of pros, and I think that you are damn proud of them pros because you were very, very, very clear on listing them. You was like, listen, I am successful, I am educated, I am hardworking, I have a good job, I make good money, I drive the car I want to drive. Like, you really, really, really have some benefits that came out of you being adopted by your new family, right? So there's definitely some pros there. Once we list the cons, we will work on what you can do to heal from some of those things so those cons are not such a big issue for you, right? So let's go back to my dad, right? One of the things that I realized was, one, my dad was sick as well. And then also, two, I was very angry with my dad because I anticipated having a particular lifestyle and I felt like my parents should provide that for me, right? And I felt like he was a large part of why that wasn't provided for me, right? But when I had to look back on it, like I said, number one, my dad was sick. And then number two, my dad came here from another country. My dad migrated to the United States from Panama. I lived in Brooklyn my whole life. Right? So imagine having to uproot my whole life to go live in another country, learn another language, get used to another culture. That's not only shell shocking, that's traumatic for a person. So I'm guessing when my dad came here, number one on the list, I'm traumatized. And then on top of that, once my dad got here, he wasn't here long before he started having children. So that is another thing that's kind of traumatic because it's like, I'm not used to being I'm sorry, what am I supposed to do with this? You're supposed to be a dad now. Oh, because I didn't have those plans. Right? So now, since my dad became a parent young, he jumped right into family mode, which means I have to start doing this parenting thing. All of my dreams and my goals have to fall to the wayside because I have to now focus on this parenting thing, which meant that no, I can't go after my big dreams that would have catapulted me in a certain financial status. I have to now focus on what can I do now, right? And what he could do now was only enough to suffice for the family. It wasn't enough for us to live this lavish life that in my mind I should have been afforded from birth. So because of that, I was angry with him. Khadijah, you are angry over a person who set up circumstances you have never even had to encounter. Is that fair? So going back to your mom, like we're saying here in the letter, like I'm saying here to you from the letter, your mom is sick. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other circumstances that contribute to her illness. Are you aware of those? Because that's another thing, digging deep, finding out what your mom's childhood was like. How did she grow up? How did she get introduced to drugs? You know what I'm saying? Because these are some of the things that will have you view the situation in a different lens, and it probably would kind of sort of make you back away from being angry and more so being empathetic of the fact that, wow, this is all that you went through. Because most times what our parents went through, we didn't have to encounter. We had a totally different life. Right? So like I said, the digging deep will be taking place. The pros and cons list will be taking place. Then I will be asking a realistic question about what you want to do. Do you want to be bothered with these people? Because from what it sounds like you have your little family that you have been inducted into, your Hispanic family that you love very much. They've afforded you with all opportunities in the world. That's who you view as family, and you don't want to be bothered with those other people. The only reason why I'm kind of on the fence about that, because one part of me did feel like you didn't want to be bothered because you kept referring to the mother as her first name and not pretty much like my birth mom or anything like that. And then even you refer to the siblings as, you know, in quotation marks, like my sister, like it's something that's not real. But the other part of me kind of feels like you do want to be bothered, because I think when she initially called you and tried to build that relationship with you, you said you went over there with no hesitation. I think you got to the point of anger again with her when she didn't respond the way you wanted her to respond. And I think she got to the point of contention with you because you didn't respond the way she wanted you to respond. Everything takes time. Everything takes time. So I would be asking you in a healing heart session, do you have the time, the energy, or the wherewithal to even try to build a relationship with your siblings and your mom? Before we even get to, can you give her anything? Do you want to be bothered with these people? Because if not, all of the things that we're talking about is null and void. It's just about you being honest with yourself if that's what you want, and then conveying that message to them. But let's be honest, is that what you want? Or is that only what you want because the way the situation went, it didn't make you feel good? And what I will say about it is things take time. Things take time. So maybe it didn't feel good in that moment. You can't imagine it feeling good. Your mother is once again sick. She needs a piece of your liver. So I can't imagine that she's going to show up with her best self when once again she's sick. But if you want to build a relationship with her, you would try to work around that and understand that and be empathetic towards that. But if you don't, my dear, that's what needs to get said and laid out. The question is that what you want? Also, the next layer of that conversation would be, would you be comfortable with something happening to your mom as a result of you not helping her, your birth mom, I'm sorry. Would you be okay with that? Because that's another thing that you don't want to have to need therapy about as well. You know, pretending as though, I'm just saying, pretending as though I don't care what happens, leave me alone, that's not my family. And then when you hear something happen, having regrets. So that would be my next line of questioning for you. If you're saying that I don't want to deal with this family, I don't want to give her a piece of my liver, and I don't care what happens, I would be asking, is that a genuine feeling? Or is that because you're upset or angry or disappointed right now? And if it's something that you can reconcile with, my dear, then we will be sitting in a healing heart session trying to find you a nice way to share that with them without being so mean and harsh, right? But I want to make sure that it's a genuine feeling and not what I'm feeling in the moment. Because a lot of times when our emotions are entangled with our trauma, it can cause a lot of anger and aggression. And sometimes it's so hard for you to see past that you make decisions that you're ultimately going to regret. And that's my thing. I want to make sure that if you're saying, listen, I don't care what happens to this woman, I don't want to be affiliated with that family and I'm done. Let that be a genuine feeling across the board and not what you feel in these moments. Because if your mom doesn't turn for the better and your birth mom doesn't turn for the better and she tried to build a relationship with you and she's showing up the way you feel that she should show up, if you would be open to having that relationship, then that means that you're not completely closed off to having it. That also means that if you make a decision now hastily, in the future, when you think about being open, you're going to regret the decision that you made when you weren't. So again, my dear, it's something that you need to think about and be honest with yourself, right? I've been, okay, so like for me, right? When I first got on the healing journey and I was making amends with my dad. Now remember, I'm making amends with my dad in spirit. My dad is not here to tell me he accept my apology, he understand what I'm saying, he agree with me. None of that. I'm just saying what needs to be said in prayer to the heaven and the moon and the stars above that it reflects and he understands it, right? But I have no real confirmation from him physically that, yeah, Deja, I accept your apology. Yeah, Deja, I understand what you was going through. Yeah, Deja, I'm sorry too. You know what I'm saying? So what I had to be okay with is knowing that I'm sincere in my feelings. So me apologizing to my dad after I did all the work to understand who he was and why we were in the predicament that we were in, that is and forever will be a sincere apology. It's my genuine feelings. And my father dropped down from the heavens today and tomorrow and told me I could take that apology and shove it up my ass. I would still sincerely want to give it because it's what I feel no matter what. And I feel that way genuinely. So even if I'm apologizing to him and he's shutting it down and telling me to go to hell with F me and calling me a liar or whatever he would be doing negatively, I would still be standing firm in, but I'm still sorry for what I did because that's genuinely how I feel. So once again, my thing is that if you're saying, I don't want a business with these people, I don't want to give this lady a piece of my liver, I don't want to build a relationship, make sure that's a genuine feeling and not just a rash in the moment, you know, I'm pissed off and I don't like what's taking place feeling. Another thing is too, whether you decide to give your birth mom a piece of your liver or not, or whether you decide to build a relationship with these people or not, once again, we will be sitting side by side in a Healing Heart session to discuss forgiveness. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Forgiveness is for you. Right? Forgiveness is for you. The same way blessings are for you. Right? And the same way how you will be born into a drug addicted family is the same way how God will bless you with a replacement family that could take care of you and afford you all the opportunities that you've been given. So in those moments, for me and you, it would be about looking at the glass as half full as opposed to half empty. Yeah. What happened there was messed up. But as a result of it, look at how my life turned out. And if you are damn sure proud of who you've become and all the experiences that you've had and you're genuinely happy, then I think you can find in your heart to genuinely forgive your mom. And once again, forgiveness is for you. It may get to a point where you forgive your mom and she's not accepting or receptive towards you. If your forgiveness is for you and is genuine, then you hold on to that. If mom wants to feel whatever she's feeling towards you, that's on mom. She has to come to terms with her own feelings about her own actions. That's not for you to bear. And as long as you continue to bear it, you'll be angry and bitter, and it will manifest in all your behaviors and your actions, and you will try to cover it up with Gucci and gold and Benzes and Louis, and none of that will be able to suffice for the fact that deep down, you are really hurting about something, and you're not addressing it. So Operation Heal 100 Hearts would set the stage for you to address your trauma that you have from your past, because moving forward, you don't want to still carry that trauma with you. It's not your burden to bear unless you make it. Okay, my dear. So yes, I'm not here to say if you have to give your mom a kidney. A piece of your liver. I'm not here to say if you have to make amends with your mom or build a relationship with her. I'm not here to say if you have to build a relationship with your siblings or be cordial towards them. I'm just saying that whatever you choose to do, please be at peace with it. And you're only going to be at peace with whatever your choices are if you have forgiven these people. But if you have not forgiven them, you will not be at peace. And because of that, it will show up in your behaviors and your actions, and it will be written all over you. And you will continue crashing and burning until you address that trauma. Operation Heal 100 Hearts is here for you to do so, my dear. So, oh my goodness, I hope and pray I was able to land a plane. This one was very tricky for me only because it hits close to home when talking about addiction. It hits close to home when talking about forgiveness. And it hits close to home when dealing with being empathetic towards a person when you feel like they've made a choice, not realizing that sometimes some things are out of folks' hands, even when it looks like they have their hands wrapped around the situation. Okay, so I hope I was able to help, sweetie. I hope that this provided pretty much a blueprint for you to start working from. And in any event, I'm here. I'm still conducting one-on-one sessions. I was on 3 this morning on Zoom. I'm still doing the work for folks who want it and need it. So if this is something that you want and you need, I'm here to make sure it happens for you. In any event, you guys make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. That is your free way of getting me out in the algorithm. That's you knocking on my door instead of budging your way right in and letting me know you're in the building. So all of my subscribers, I love you guys and thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Tuesday and please enjoy your day.